For some strange reason, I heard a lot of pundits predicting Atlanta go 15-1 and possibly even 16-0. And well, week 6 came along, and just like that, the 16-0 is out the window because Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints, they pretty much made easy work of Matt Ryan and the then undefeated Falcons, defeating them 31-21. They had a 14-point lead in the first quarter, and they really never looked back from there. And now Atlanta sits at 5-1. Carolina is 4-0. And the question is now, is Atlanta good enough to win the NFC South? I'll let you know my prediction and more next. Welcome back to the Best Damn Sports Blog. Back again to talk NFL with you guys, specifically the Atlanta Falcons, who played their Week 6 game on Thursday night against the New Orleans Saints and pretty much got handled, suffering their first loss of the season. Out the window goes the 16-0 predictions I heard many ESPN personalities predicting, which was kind of far-fetched to me. And I'm someone who supports Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons, but I never thought that. But people underestimated the rivalry between Atlanta and New Orleans being division opponents. They have a lot of familiarity with Atlanta. And even though Drew Brees and the Saints have looked pretty pathetic so far to start the season, against Atlanta, that was not the case, as Drew Brees probably had his best game of the season as he went 30 of 39 passing for 312 yards with just one touchdown pass. Mark Ingram had 2 touchdown carries. But Ben Watson was the star of the game as he had 10 receptions for 127 yards with 1 touchdown. Out there looking like Jimmy Graham against the Atlanta Falcons. So Atlanta is now 5-1. And if you actually go back and look at their results, they're sort of fortunate to have 5 wins this season. In week 1 against the Eagles, the Falcons wasted a 17-point halftime lead before Matt Ryan led the team on a drive to set up the game-winning field goal. Parkey, the kicker for the Eagles, also missed the game winner as time expired, so they could have lost to the Eagles in week 1. In week 2, the Giants blew a 10-point fourth quarter lead to the Falcons, and they went on to win that game. Week 3, the Cowboys led 14-0 in the first quarter and 28-17 at the half before Matt Ryan led ATL to a second half comeback as the defense shut out Brandon Weeden and the Cowboys in the second half to win 39-28. Week 4, they had a blowout win over the Texans. Then week 5, Cousins led Washington on a late drive to make a game-time field goal after Matt Ryan drove Atlanta down for the go-ahead touchdown, only for Cousins to throw a pick 6 in overtime to win the game. And then week 6, as I stated, they went up 14-0, did the Saints over the Falcons, and Atlanta was unable to make up that difference as they lost 31-21. So when you look at their results, Atlanta has been an improved team under Dan Quinn, but they still sort of resemble the team we know them to be, and that's a borderline team. They could have very well lost all 4 of those other games that were very, very close. So, I mean, a catch here and a drop there, the Falcons could be 3-3 right now, or maybe 2-4. Regardless of that, Atlanta is an improved team. And they are a good team, and I see them being a playoff team by season's end. One loss does not change fate for Atlanta. They still have a chance to win the NFC South, and they still even have a chance to lock up home field advantage through the NFC rounds, although Green Bay is still undefeated. I don't expect them to go 16-0, and Atlanta has a very favorable schedule the rest of the way. But I will say this, though. Ever since Julio Jones has been hobbled for about 2 to 3 weeks now, the Atlanta Falcons offense has not been as dominant as usual, although Devontae Freeman, who I think is the gem of this NFL season, has done wonders for the Falcons. They actually have a good running back now who averages over 4 yards per carry, and he has 10 total touchdowns on the season, with 9 being rushing touchdowns. And that was vital because Roddy White and Julio Jones, we know they used to be a 1-2 combo for Matt Ryan, but now Roddy White is just not that great anymore. He's a secondary type of receiver, and he's not a star. He's lost a step, obviously, and he's getting up there in age. So for them to find the gem in Devontae Freeman that they have, that was vital. because not only is he a capable running back, he is also a dual threat who can catch out of the backfield and create a lot of plays in the open field. But following this loss, I wanted to really get a look at where Atlanta ranks in the league against other teams when it comes to offense and defense. And to no surprise, I found out their offense is probably one of the top 3 and at the worst top 5. Listen to their offensive ranks. In total yards per game, they rank 4th with 407.3 yards per game. Rush yards, they average 130 per game, which ranks 5th. Pass yards, they average 277, which ranks 8th. Points per game, they average 30.5, which is ranked 3rd. In third down conversions, they convert on 47.7% of their third downs, which ranks 4th best. And when it comes to turnovers, their 8 turnovers rank 19th. So when you hear that, Atlanta is pretty much the same juggernaut of an offense they've always been under Matt Ryan, along with Julio Jones. When it comes to defense, we know they have a new defensive-minded coach in Dan Quinn who did wonders for Seattle's defense as the coordinator. And so far, when it comes to yards allowed per game, they rank 20th, giving up 369.5 yards per game. Pass yards, they rank 29th, giving up 290.7 yards. But in rush yards per game, Atlanta ranks 1st, only giving up 78.8 on average. Points allowed, they rank 18th, giving up 23.8 on average. Turnovers forced, they have 10, which ranks 6th. And for third down conversion rate, they are ranked 27th, allowing 42.3% to be converted on third down. So from those numbers, that lets you know this Atlanta defense is not great. They're probably still towards the bottom half, and they're wildly inconsistent. Wildly. Their offense is A1, to no surprise, as we all expected. But I want to touch on the NFC South because now Atlanta trails Carolina by 1 game in the loss column. And I really wanted to take a look at both teams' schedules to see who had the more likely chance of winning the NFC South. And when you take a look at both of their schedules, it is clear Atlanta has the easier schedule. I'm going to just start with their next 5 games. For Atlanta, they travel to Tennessee. Then they host the Buccaneers. Travel to the 49ers. Host the Colts. And play the Vikings at home. Those are their next 5 games. For the Panthers, their next 5 games includes a date with Seattle at CenturyLink Field, followed by a game versus the Eagles in which they play host, as well as the Colts who they play host to, as well as the Packers' 3 straight games at home, followed by the Titans. So the Falcons, they pretty much have a cakewalk for the rest of the season, and Carolina, they still have some tough games ahead of them. And I think Atlanta is still a little bit better than Carolina because their defense is not as stout as it once was, say a year or 2 ago. And Atlanta's offense is by far better, especially now with Cam Newton not having Kelvin Benjamin out wide. And for that reason, I expect Atlanta to go on to win the NFC South. I expect Carolina to be in the playoffs as well. But I think Atlanta's easier schedule and the fact that they have a better offense will propel them to the NFC South title. Now, Atlanta and Carolina have yet to face off against each other, and we know they have 2 matchups coming since they are division opponents. And I think that will probably be the biggest deciding factor of who wins the NFC South. But as of right now, I'm sticking with Atlanta to win the NFC South, and I believe they could be a threat to come out of the NFC in the Super Bowl. To do so, they're going to at least need home field advantage for at least the first round, if not the whole NFC, because we know in years past, the Packers demolished Atlanta in the playoffs as well as the Giants. Embarrassed them. So if Atlanta has to go on the road in the playoffs, especially to somewhere cold, you can chalk up a Super Bowl berth. It's not going to happen. Only way to do so is if they lock up home field advantage throughout, or if somehow Green Bay finds a way to knock themselves out of the playoffs before Atlanta faces them. Other than that, Atlanta is going to need home field advantage to have any shot of making it to the Super Bowl. But I think they are indeed a playoff team.